Today, I'm going to explain the 2022 movie called Fall. Sit back and enjoy. The movie begins with a couple climbing a steep rock mountain together with their friend Hunter. Becky slipped slightly and got a bit scared for a brief moment. Her husband, Dan, tried to encourage her not to be afraid. He stretched out his hand and told Becky to slide over to him, so he grabs her. Becky jumps over to Dan safely and the couple kissed in excitement. The three kept climbing higher and higher. Dan got to a point in the rock with an opening and tried locking his harness in place but got pushed off by a bird and was left swinging. Becky tried to help, but unfortunately the harness broke and he fell down dead. The movie cuts to 51 weeks later with Becky still mourning her husband. In fact, she still can't get over his death and took to drinking alcohol. She walks out of a bar drunk and sees her dad waiting outside. Her dad isn't happy about her situation and advised her to move on with her life, but Becky got mad at him and walked home alone. Back at home, Becky still couldn't get over her situation and decided to end it all by taking drug overdose, but just before she did, Hunter called and came over to see her. Hunter consoled her more and tried to get her to get over Dan's death. She told Becky about her plan to climb the B67 TV tower the following weekend and convinced her to come with her. Becky was afraid and therefore was not happy about the idea. The next morning, she told Hunter that she's agreed to climb the tower with her. The two got excited, hugged each other. On their way to the tower, they were chatting and laughing. Then Becky's dad started calling, but she ignored him. They stopped to have a meal at a diner so they can spend the night at nearby hotel. At the diner, Becky asked the waitress for a place to charge her phone, but she refused by saying it's not free. Then Hunter asked her for the location of the B67 tower and she pointed at it through the window. Hunter asked Becky to hand over her phone charger. Hunter then removed the bulb from the table lamp and connected the charger to the terminals of the lamp and started charging Becky's phone. Later that night, Becky had a nightmare about being in bed with her dead husband and wakes up in her dream with a blood-stained sheet. In the morning, the two got ready to go to the tower. On their way, Hunter started recording a video with her phone talking about their adventure of climbing the tower. They nearly crashed into a speeding truck on the highway. They finally arrived at the gate of the tower, but it appeared to be locked, so they had to walk to the tower. They came across some vultures eating a coyote that appeared to be still alive and warded them off. At the base of the tower, Hunter started recording a video of the tower with her smartphone to post on social media for her followers. She talked about how high the tower is and her plan to climb it soon. Becky looked very scared and uncomfortable and told Hunter she can't do it anymore. Hunter held her hands and convinced her to do it and so shouldn't be afraid. They started climbing the tower with Hunter taking the lead. Becky looked terrified, but began climbing. The frames of the tower looked weak and shaky. Becky broke off a piece of the rusty ladder. At a point, Becky told Hunter to stop for a break. Becky requested for some water. Hunter said they have climbed halfway, which is exactly the height of the Eiffel Tower. As they continued to climb, Hunter kept encouraging Becky not to give up. They reached a higher level of the tower and could see the entire horizon in the distance. Becky nearly gave up, but Hunter once again kept encouraging her to climb and said they are only 200 feet away from reaching the top. Becky nearly slipped after Hunter intentionally shook the ladder, causing one or two bolts and nuts to fall off. They finally got to the top and was mesmerized by the view. They started taking photos and even flew a drone to record them from the top. At a point, Hunter is seen hanging off the tower with one hand posing at the drone. Hunter then landed the drone back on the tower. Hunter convinced Becky to hang off the tower so she can take some photos of her. Becky is then seen hanging down the tower, but holds onto Hunter tightly while she takes a few photos of her from above. After taking the shots, she pulled her back safely to the top. They looked at their pictures and screamed in excitement. Hunter advised Becky never to be afraid anymore. Then Becky felt it was time to spread Dan's cremated ashes. She took the box containing the ashes and said a few words, then spread the ashes in the wind. They shared an emotional moment together and soon got over it. They then decided to climb back down the tower with Becky going first. Becky stepped on the loose ladder, which quickly broke away from the tower, causing her to fall, but she was saved by swinging off the harness attached to her and Hunter's body. Unfortunately, the rest of the ladders broke off from the tower and fell down. Hunter began pulling her up with so much effort. The rope slipped and Becky fell again a few feet down. Finally, she managed to pull her back to the top of the tower. They were happy and laughing despite what had just happened. Then they realized the bag containing their supplies also fell but landed on the TV antenna. Since there is no ladder, how will they get down? Becky checked her phone, but there was no signal at the height. They opened an emergency box attached to the tower and found a pair of binoculars and a flare gun. Becky began getting worried that they are going to die of thirst, but Hunter said she is sure people have already called 911 for help because they might have heard the impact the ladders made after falling on the ground, so they just have to wait. Becky realized she had a cut on her thigh during the fall. Hunter tied it with her shirt to keep the wound safe. In the next scene, Becky is seen filming Hunter, who talked about her life and past experiences. They shared a few words together and kept waiting for help. 5 hours later, Hunter spotted an RV parked somewhere in the field but didn't see anyone. Becky left a distress message on her social media page hoping her fans will see and eventually call for help. But due to the extreme height, there isn't any connectivity on her phone. She tied her phone to a rope and lowered it hoping to get a signal. Unfortunately, she didn't get a signal. She even tried to hang below the top of the tower in order to lower the phone further for a signal. Despite her efforts, she didn't get a signal and climbed back up to the top. Since there is signal at the base of the tower, they decided to place the phone in Hunter's shoe and dropped it hoping to land safely so that the message can be sent after the phone established a connection. With the help of the binoculars, Hunter spotted a guy walking at the base of the tower and started calling for his attention and to no avail. Then they saw a guy making a grill by the RV they saw earlier and decided that they would shoot the flare gun at night hoping that the guys will see them from the RV. Later, night fell into wall-away time. Becky went through her wedding videos on her phone and saw Hunter in the video with a straight face she's put on. The guys in the RV got ready to leave, so Hunter told Becky to shoot the flare gun. A guy standing by the RV saw it and prompted the other guy to take a look. They saw the girls on the tower waving their phone light at them from the tower. Instead of helping the ladies, they rather stole Hunter's car and drove away. Moments later, Hunter checked on Becky's wound, and while she was opening it up, Becky saw the numbers 143 tattooed on the side of Hunter's foot. She was surprised because Dan never said "I love you," instead always used the numbers 143. Hunter then confessed that she had an affair with Dan before his death, breaking Becky's heart even more. The next morning, Hunter apologized sincerely to Becky and blamed herself for putting them in a bad situation. Hunter then decided to get down to grab her bag from the TV antenna. She lowered the rope and started climbing down with the rope. Luckily, she managed to get close to the antenna but couldn't reach for the bag. She unlocked the harness attached to her body to lower herself further, but she nearly fell down, swinging off the rope. She struggled for a while and finally let go of the rope and landed on the antenna. She took out the water bottle and drank some water. She tried reaching for the rope so she could climb back again. After struggling to grab the rope, she managed to lock her selfie stick to the end of it and started climbing up, and Becky helped by pulling her. But just before Hunter reached the top, Becky lost control of the rope and it caused Hunter to fall. Luckily, she survived the fall with her hand badly hurt, so Becky pulled her again. Becky wrote a note and attached it to the drone and began flying it towards the diner. But moments later, the drone ran out of battery, so they aborted. Becky fell asleep and had a nightmare, and in her dream she was looking for Hunter, and towards the end Hunter was lying down dead, about to be eaten by a vulture. She suddenly woke up and Hunter told her she was having a bad dream. In an attempt to recharge the drone, Becky climbed up to the lamp on the tower and, with Hunter's idea, succeeded by plugging in the charger, and the drone started charging. In the process of charging, she was attacked multiple times by a vulture because of her exposed wound. Luckily, the drone had a full charge and Becky got down safely. The next morning, Becky flew the drone again towards the diner, but just before reaching the place, it crashed into a truck in the middle of the road. The truck driver was confused when he got down, so he just looked around and then drove away. Becky sat down and cried for a while, and then suddenly realized that she's been having a hallucination. It appeared that Hunter was with her all this while just to keep her company. Hunter actually died when she fell and landed on the antenna. Back home, Becky's dad was worried about her and tried calling several times with not success. He sent her a message hoping it gets delivered to her phone soon. Meanwhile, a vulture landed by her side and started picking her wound, thinking she was dead. Becky grabbed the neck, smashed it on the platform dead, and then ate it. Moments later, she locked the harness to a piece of ladder, descended, and landed by Hunter's body on top of the antenna. She removed Hunter's shoe and placed her phone inside it. She placed the shoe inside Hunter's body through a cut in her stomach. She pushed down the body from the antenna. Suddenly, we see Becky's dad driving to the tower. When he arrived, he saw a body on the floor bagged by 2 emergency service personnel and thought it was Becky. Suddenly, Becky called him and ran to him from the ambulance. The movie ended with Hunter's body being carried to the ambulance. Please like and share this video. Subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.
At the beginning of the film, a group of individuals were in the fields collecting corn in baskets. One member of the group abruptly ceased their work and walked in a different direction, subsequently falling down. The man's son and fellow workers rushed over to him, but he eventually passed away and a funeral was held. Later on, the boy was sitting on the couch, disassembling an electronic device. After putting the parts together, it was revealed that the device was a radio cassette player. The boy, named William, confirmed to his father, who entered the room, that he had fixed it. William then gave the radio to his father, who went outside and turned it on. The radio announced that the clouds were moving in a westerly direction. Anticipating precipitation, the man gazed optimistically at the sky, longing for rain due to the village's severe drought. Meanwhile, William retrieved water from the well to cleanse himself before discovering a surprise gift from his parents upon entering his room: new clothes. Delighted, William expressed gratitude towards his parents. The following day, William dressed in his new clothes, bid farewell to his parents, and headed to school. Upon arrival, the students formed a queue as the principal provided guidance, highlighting the school's financial struggles, but emphasizing that the students' determination and diligence could make all the difference. However, their conversation was interrupted by a sudden downpour, causing the principal to promptly direct the students to their respective classrooms. Upon entering the classroom, they were greeted by their algebra teacher, Kachagunda, who proceeded to begin the lesson. Following the class, William approached Kachagunda to express his regards. However, to William's surprise, Kachagunda mentioned that his father had not yet paid for his tuition and that he could be expelled from the class. Feeling shocked, William left the classroom and returned home. William spent the majority of the evening preparing for school and completing his assignments. However, as he requested his mother to turn on the lights, she informed him that there was only a limited amount of kerosene left. The following day, the teacher distributed the exam scores, and William had passed with a 62%. Though he was content with the results, he believed that he could strive for even better grades. Following school, they made their way to the landfill where William discovered something that immediately caught his attention: a battery. Later on, he proceeded towards a house where a meeting among villagers was being held. The topic under discussion was about an offer from another village to purchase trees at a lucrative price. However, the dilemma was that these trees served as a crucial defense mechanism, safeguarding the village and its farmland from drought. The deadline for the purchase offer on the trees was set for the following day. In an attempt to feed their families, a few individuals consented and signed the contract to sell the trees. Despite this, William's father made an effort to persuade them against this decision, warning of the dire consequences that would arise if the trees were to be chopped down, as it would trigger a drought, leading to the demise of their entire crop. Despite his efforts, nobody paid heed to William's father's warnings. In the meantime, William fashioned a trap for small animals by pulling a rope, which led to a sudden outburst of noise. Curious, he decided to investigate, only to find out that a large group of people were in the process of sawing down the trees. This sight left William devastated, as he realized that nothing could prevent the impending drought. Afterward, he accompanied his friend to a hut where several adult men were seated. The group of men were in the midst of a conversation about girls while listening to the radio, which unfortunately stopped working due to the batteries running out. At this point, they requested William to fetch fresh batteries from his house, to which he agreed and hurried home. After retrieving all the batteries, he made a quick visit to his father, informing him that the school fees had to be paid the next day. Despite William's urgency, his father stated that he could not pay the school fees the following day, and that they would have to wait for some time. William rushed back to the group of men and was able to fix the radio, which made everyone happy and appreciative of his efforts. As he left the hut, he spotted his sister kissing his teacher, Kachagunda. The next day, William and his friends returned to the landfill. During their visit, one of his friends suggested that they take revenge on Kachagunda by breaking his bike. Without much thought, William agreed to his friend's plan to break Kachagunda's bike. However, as he approached the bike, he discovered a fascinating feature: pedaling it caused the headlight to light up. This was an exciting discovery for William. Later that night, William overheard his parents discussing their financial struggles and how they were unable to pay for his schooling. The following day, the director called out several names and asked the remaining students to step forward. He informed them that their tuition fees were unpaid and there would be no extensions, meaning they could not continue their studies unless they paid the due amount. William and his father then went to their friend Travel's place. William's father proposed to Travel that he purchase some trees to safeguard his village from drought and floods, but Travel dismissed the idea, stating that it would not be effective. Due to the significant crisis in the world, their state would be unable to assist farmers, and a long-lasting famine was anticipated soon. Eventually, the rainfall ceased, and an intense drought set in. William sneaked into the classroom unnoticed and approached Kachagunda after class to ask how the bicycle headlight works. He inquired about the mechanism that makes it light up when pedaled, and Kachagunda explained that a magnet is required to create such a system. William was advised to read books on the subject, but as he didn't have a library pass, Kachagunda took him there. The librarian recommended some books, which William began to read. Later, when the head of the party arrived in the village, he was welcomed with applause and joy, but he implemented policies that went against the people's interests and showed no concern for them. The head of the party showed no concern for the drought or flood. At a village gathering, the leader initially praised him but soon accused him of neglecting the common people and causing hunger. The leader was forcibly removed from the stage and beaten. Observing this, the chief's son and William rushed to his aid. In addition, William's father broke past the guards and rushed to his son, causing the guards to shoot their guns into the air, resulting in panic and chaos as people scattered in different directions. The head of the party and his entourage quickly fled in their cars. Meanwhile, the chief sustained severe injuries and was taken to one of the huts in the village. Due to the fear that he may face danger, taking him to the hospital was not an option. The following day, Trywell along with some other individuals, including William's father, went out to gather crops. Despite the scorching heat, their yield was minimal, consisting mostly of dried corn which wouldn't suffice for even 2 months. Eventually, Trywell made his way to the center of the village. A cluster of individuals were present, listening to the news broadcasted over the radio. It conveyed that the government negated the issue of hunger and insisted that the situation was favorable. However, the sellers' decision to increase the price of grain by 5-fold incited a surge of adverse emotions among the inhabitants. Trywell opted to join fellow locals in a protest against the authorities' refusal to acknowledge a grave predicament. He pledged to return the following day. Meanwhile, William and the librarian were arranging a book on electricity while simultaneously endeavoring to construct a contraption using makeshift materials. William attended school and took a seat at his desk, anticipating that Kachagunda would be the one to conduct the lesson. However, the headmaster entered the classroom and announced that he would be leading the class that day. Upon noticing William, he commanded him to stand up and instructed him to leave the school premises permanently. William tried to reason that his father would pay later, but the headmaster paid no heed and reiterated his demand for William to depart. William looked at the dry fields, which had withered from intense heat and a lack of trees. Abruptly, he heard screams. His mother informed him that trucks from the government, loaded with grain, had arrived, signifying that they had not been abandoned. She handed William some money and instructed him to purchase as much grain as he could. The villagers rushed towards the trucks, prompting William to take his bike for a quicker journey. Meanwhile, William's sister returned home and engaged in an argument with her mother over her boyfriend. Unexpectedly, a man barged into their home and expressed his desire to eat. He snatched a bucket of food and fled. William's mother dashed outside and discovered that other individuals were also pilfering their food provisions. She wept because now they are doomed to starve from hunger. Meanwhile, a commotion erupted in the village where everyone was anticipating the grain delivery. The residents began to raid the grain storage unit since they realized that there would not be enough for everyone. In the chaos, William managed to purchase some grain, clutching it tightly to himself as he was fearful that it might be stolen from him. Subsequently, the father and other men returned from the rally, and upon his arrival, his wife apprised him that all their food supplies had been pilfered. As a result, the people who had purchased grain were apprehensive of venturing outdoors due to the hostile and ravenous mob. However, the soldiers directed them to evacuate the area since they could not remain there any longer. William decided to leave through the back entrance, get on his bike and drove away unnoticed, and he successfully did it. Later that evening, William's father counted the money, assessed the amount of grain, and conveyed that they could only manage to eat once per day, leaving everyone disheartened. In the subsequent days, Trywell scoured the area in search of food. When William decides to check on his trap, he never managed to catch anything. At night, William went to his sister and told her to ask her boyfriend Kachagunda to give her a headlight with a mechanism. Then William would be able to make a water pump and save the village from drought. The next morning, as William was returning home with firewood and heard loud screams, it turned out that his sister ran away with his teacher from the village. William was very upset and decided to go inside. Suddenly, he saw a headlight with the mechanism he needed on the table. William took a book on electricity from the library and a mechanism donated by the teacher and decided to make a small windmill with his friends. After working on the project for a long time, he opened the door to allow the wind into the room and the mechanism started working. Now, this mechanism needs to be made in a large size. William took his invention to his father, who was busy looking for food in the field, but his father was not impressed by this idea, and he did not believe in him. He rather got mad at his son and pushed him to the ground. He said that William would go with him to the field to work the next day to look for food. William was very upset. In the next scene, William together with his friend were digging up the ground. They sat down to rest for a while. Then William thought for a while and went to the rest of his friends. There, he learns that everyone else is going to go north away from the village. William was able to persuade them and asked them to help him implement his idea. In order to make a big windmill, he needed his father's bicycle, but his father forbid him to take it. So together with his friends, William approached his father to ask once again for the bike. But Trywell told them to go away. William said that he could use his device to help the village with water, but his father did not listen to him and drove everyone away. As time passed, the drought intensified. More graves popped up in the cemetery, which meant people were dying from starvation. At this time, William gathered all the spare parts for the windmill and went to look for his dog. It turned out that she also died of hunger. William's mom told Trywell that there were no more options to save himself except to give William a bicycle so that he could make a mechanism. William was burying his dog when his father came to him on a bicycle. William convinced his father that his idea would work, and his father gave him the bike. He and his father started work. First, the bicycle frame was dismantled. Then a couple of trees were cut down. They created the necessary structure from them and erected it. William built the necessary mechanism and took it outside where the rest of the team were working. They lifted a large propeller and secured it. William twisted the wires in the right way, and the propeller began to spin. Everyone was waiting for a miracle. William said that the battery should recharge a little. The villagers made a path for water. Suddenly the motor started and everyone raised their heads. The water began to flow. In the end, everyone was in shock and all the villagers started having fun and hugging William. The water flowed into the field and they planted seeds. After a while, small plants appeared and the village was saved. Please subscribe and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.